Hi. In this video, I'm going to try to teach you how to learn math from a video. It sounds like a funny thing to be doing, but I think it's actually really important. There are a lot of people learning math from videos these days who are used to learning math in a classroom, where you have a teacher and the teacher will say things like, write this down, or like, stop and think about that, or the teacher will repeat something they just said. And you definitely don't always have that in a video. So you have to take on part of the role of the teacher as for yourself. And I'll try to show you what types of things I think are the most important in this video. So we're going to talk about three parts: what you do before you watch the video, what you do while you're watching it, and what you do after. Alright, so if we start off with before, the first thing we really want to think about is to minimize distractions. I think there are two big categories of distractions for most people. The first of them is other people. So, not everybody has a quiet room where they can go and be alone to watch a video, but if you do, you should definitely try to do that. If you don't have a quiet room where you can go, maybe you can find yourself a relatively quiet corner, or tuck yourself away somewhere so you're less likely to be distracted by other people. Or you can say, oh, I'm watching this math video here, stop talking to me for a couple minutes. So you do the best that you can under your circumstances. I think the other really important source of distraction for a lot of people is phones. So this is tricky because sometimes you're using your phone to watch the video because that's the only way you have. So if you're not, ideally, if you're watching a video on a computer or something else, if you can put your phone in another room, that's really ideal. I think there's a lot of research that shows that if you have your phone in the pocket, in your pocket, it's a really, really big distraction, even if you don't think you're distracted by it. But if you have to watch the video on your phone, then at least try to pause notifications. I didn't know how to do that on my phone. I thought, oh, well, I'll put it on airplane mode, and then I was like, that doesn't make sense, I have to watch this video. So I just Googled how to pause notifications, and I got instructions really easily. And that way, while you're right in the middle of the video, super focused and super concentrating, at least then you won't be interrupted by something that'll be distracting. Alright, so right now, as you're watching this video, I'd like you to stop and think about, right now, about how can you be less distracted by people. If you're in the same room with people being really noisy, if you can, just pause the video and go somewhere else. Or if you can, maybe ask them if they can be less noisy for a few minutes. But try to be less distracted by people. And if you're not using your phone, and you have it in your pocket or next to you, try to put it somewhere away from you, ideally in another room. And if you are watching this video on your phone, then pause the video, learn about how to pause notifications, and then come back to this video. Okay, I'll give you a minute to do that right now. Okay. So now we're still before we get to watching the actual math video, and you've already hopefully minimized the distractions as best you can. And then the last thing to do before we start watching the video is you're going to write down enough information so that you could find this video again. So I think maybe title, maybe the creator of the video, so that if you're thinking, oh, I need to learn about that, find that video about fractions or that video about equations, you'll be able to quickly check your notes and find the video from the information you wrote down. Okay, so for practice right now, grab a sheet of some sort of paper or a notebook or something, wherever you write your math, and then write down the title of this video. You just pause the video while you do it. I'll wait for a second. Okay, so you have the title written down. And now we're finally into the watch the video steps. Alright, so as you get to watching the video, you watch the video through, and then once you've watched it, you write the main ideas. Maybe this is a sentence, Whatever you think is the most important idea. So it's important on this first walkthrough, that's right, the first walkthrough, that you really try to focus your best, try to concentrate, and try to get a view of the overall picture. What is this video teaching you? What are you supposed to learn from the video? And what are the most important parts of that? All right, that was indeed the first walkthrough, because there's going to be a second one. This is the part that surprises a lot of people. It's really important to watch the video again. It's not for every kind of video. All the kinds of videos you watch for fun, it's maybe unlikely that you'd watch them twice in a row unless it had some amazing special effect in it. But when you're watching a math video, there's often a lot of small details that you really need to think about. And it's usually, if it's something new that you're learning, it's too much to take in all at once, first time through. So you really need to watch the video twice. Okay, as you're watching the video twice, there's two big things to think about. The first thing is take notes. All right, here's what you should write down. First thing is you copy all the text you see. All right. A lot of videos like mine are just a piece of paper or a whiteboard or a computer screen with somebody writing just a bunch of text, just like you would write it in your math notebook if you were in a classroom. So you do that. You copy all of the text you see in the video. Some videos that have a little more production to them, text is appearing and disappearing, but really you try to copy all the text you see in the most clear way that you can. The other thing that you write down is you add explanations, probably in the margins. So a lot of the time, the person making the video will write down maybe an equation or something, and they'll explain something about what they did, but they won't necessarily write that down. So you add it in the margin. If you're writing your math here, you put it right next to it on the one side or the other. All right, so now if you're your second time through the video here, I want you to pause the video and you're going to take notes. So I want you to write down everything that you've seen, I've written down up to now. I'll pause for a minute while you do that. Okay, and we'll continue here. So if you're watching for the first time, you're just thinking about the main ideas so that you can write them down afterwards. And if you're writing the second time, you're really thinking about all the details as I talk here, and you're taking notes. All right, so the second time through, you're taking notes, which you said. And the other thing is you're going to pause the video a lot. All right, there's several reasons you're going to pause the video a lot. One of them is just very practical. You're taking notes, and often the person on the video can write faster than you, so sometimes you just need to pause to catch up with the writing. One underappreciated reason to pause is to think. Sometimes you need time to think. So sometimes if the narrator says something and you're like, wait a minute, just pause the video, think about it. That can do a world of good. A really good reason to pause the video is to rewind it or just back it up a little bit and replay. If the narrator in the video does something and you're like, wait, why did they do that? And you think about it and you're not sure, just back it up 10 seconds or 20 seconds and listen to the explanation again. That's a real advantage of a video over being in class. You can't always ask your teacher, can you just repeat that same thing again? Or if you do, and then you might worry about asking over and over again, but a video doesn't care. You can listen to that part of the video 10 times if you want, and nobody will think anything of it. All right, and the other sort of opposite reason to pause a lot is to get ahead. So this one's to go back and listen to it again. It's a good idea, actually, sometimes to pause the video and work ahead, but there's a really important thing I need to say about the working ahead. You should pause the video to work ahead, and then it's really important that you watch the solution in the video afterwards. It's not a good idea to power through a solution and then skip the rest of the video, because a lot of the times in a video, the person making the video will be really emphasizing an important point or describing something tricky or a common error that students will make, and if you jump ahead, you'll miss all of that information. But if you jump ahead and then watch the person doing the video do the same problem afterwards, then you can really learn from it. If your solution was great, then you know that, but you may well still pick up a trick or two. And if you made a mistake in your solution, it's actually great if you make a mistake and then see an explanation. You'll learn more than if you never had made the mistake before. Alright, so again, if you're on your second time through the video, if you're not up to date with your writing here, you should pause the video to write. I'll give you a second to pause it, and then we'll go on to the after part. Alright, so here we go. So we're in the after part here. So after you finish a video, you have to write a little bit more. I think there are 3 things that you should write down. You should write what you learned. There are 2 reasons to write what you learned. Number 1 is because it's really important to reflect on what you learned, and so the process of writing what you learned will help you learn it. It sounds like a silly thing to say, but it's very, very true. If you watch a video and then you think, wait a minute, what did I just learn? And you stop for 10, 15 seconds and then you write down a little sentence. It doesn't need to be a lot usually. It'll help you remember what you learned, and it'll help you learn it. The second reason you should write what you learned is that in case you forget it, which we all forget stuff, you can go back through your notes that you made and you can see if it was a video about adding fractions, I learned to add fractions with different denominators, then you've got that written down, and that'll let you know either to look at your notes from that video, or since you've got the title, you can go watch that video again. Alright, the second thing I think might be especially important with math videos. You might have special reminders in your video. Depending on what the topic of the video was, often the teacher or the person making the video will really talk about errors to avoid. And if you worked ahead here and you did make an error, that's great, because now you have a special reminder to yourself so you don't make that error in the future. And then the last thing to write down is your questions. If you're being a really good, involved listener, I think there's a good chance on a lot of times that you're watching a video here, you'll have some questions at the end. There'll be something that you didn't understand, or a question about what happens next, and you should write them down. Okay? After you've written down these 3 things, you should try to answer your questions. Alright, and here are a few ways to answer the questions. The first one, which I think is also the first one you should try, this is not at all snarky. The first thing you should do is think. You should try thinking about it. Because if you had a question and then you think about it and you actually come to an answer, that's super amazing learning right there. And if you had a question and you think about it, even if you don't come to an answer, then your brain is more prepped for the answer, and you'll be able to learn the answer from a different way much easier than if you hadn't stopped to think about it. Okay, depending on what kind of question it is, sometimes Googling it is just a really good way. You can just type something quickly into Google and you come up with a great answer. If the question was, why was it -3 in the second step, that's not so much a good question for Googling though, depending on what the question is. And then I guess the third way is to, by asking someone. So it could be a friend, teacher, etc. Whoever you've got in your life who can help you with a little bit of math problems, or who can work it through it with you. That's a good person to ask. All right. So I hope this is helpful. Sometimes this feels like a lot of work, and it is a lot of work, but it's so worth it. There's not really any point of watching a math video if you aren't going to learn anything from it. So it's much better to put a little extra time into watching it. Watch it a couple times, take a lot of notes. You'll learn way more, sort of on average, per average minute. It really is worth it to try to go through all of these steps. So, if you are through your first time watching the video, as soon as I get to the end, I want you to write down the main ideas and watch it again. And if it's your second time watching the video and you've got everything copied here, as soon as you get to the end, I want you to write down what you've learned and try to answer your questions if you've got some. All right. Thanks a lot and good luck.